Two 17-year-old black girls are violently accused of theft on a first-class flight while horrified passengers watch in silence. But the woman screaming at them has no idea what's about to unfold. You little thieves probably stole those tickets, just like you people steal everything else. The words echoed through the cabin like a gunshot, and before anyone could react, she grabbed the nearest twin's arm hard enough to leave fingerprints on her brown skin. Maya Richardson felt her sister Madison's hand grip Hayes tighter as tears burned behind her eyes, both girls frozen in their seats while 50 passengers stared and recorded but said nothing. Carol Hendricks stood over them with a designer purse clutched like a weapon, her face twisted in rage and entitlement, absolutely certain that two black teenagers couldn't possibly belong in first class without having done something criminal. What Carol didn't know was that the quiet businessman in seat 4C had already texted 4 words that would destroy her life. Need immediate legal intervention. Get your hands off my sister. Madison jerked Maya's arm free, her voice shaking with fury and fear. Don't you dare talk to me like that. Carol's voice rose higher. Flight attendant. Flight attendant. These girls are sitting in seats that don't belong to them. A young flight attendant rushed over, her name tag reading Jessica. She looked between Carol and the twins, clearly uncomfortable. Is there a problem? Yes, there's a problem. These two are in first class with obviously fake tickets. I want them removed immediately. I paid good money for my seat, and I shouldn't have to sit near thieves. Maya's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. Our tickets aren't fake. Our mom bought them. We can show you the confirmation. I don't care what fake emails you created. Carol snatched at Maya's phone, but the 17-year-old pulled it back just in time. I've been flying first class for 20 years, and I know a scam when I see one. Jessica said carefully, if the young ladies have valid tickets. Valid? Look at them. Look at what they are wearing. Hoodies and sneakers in first class. Carol's laugh was cruel. They probably mugged someone for those tickets. Madison stood up, all 5'6" of her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. We're wearing hoodies because we're 17-year-old girls flying to visit our grandmother. We have every right to be comfortable, and we have every right to be here. You have the right to go back to coach where you belong. The cabin had gone completely silent. Every eye was on them. Phones were out, recording. But no one, not one single passenger, spoke up. Except for the man in 4C. But this was only the beginning. Excuse me. The voice was calm but carried authority that cut through the tension. Everyone turned. The man in 4C stood up. He was black, mid-40s, wearing a perfectly tailored suit. His expression was neutral, but his eyes were sharp as glass. I'm going to need you to stop touching those girls. Carol whirled on him. This is none of your business. Actually, it became my business the moment you assaulted 2 minors. He pulled out his phone. I've recorded the last 3 minutes, including you grabbing that young woman's arm and attempting to take her phone. That's assault and attempted theft. Carol's face went crimson. I did no such thing. I have it on video. So do at least 6 other passengers. He gestured around the cabin. Would any of you like to delete your footage? Or shall we all send copies to airport police? A few passengers shifted uncomfortably. No one deleted anything. Jessica, the flight attendant, looked relieved. Sir, thank you. She turned to Carol. I'm going to need to see your boarding pass and verify the girls' tickets. This is ridiculous. Please sit down or I'll have to call the captain. Carol huffed but returned to her seat in 2B, directly across the aisle from the twins in 2C and 2D. Jessica scanned the twins' boarding passes. Her eyes widened slightly. These are completely valid. First class, purchased 6 days ago under the name Dr. Angela Richardson. She looked at the girls. Is that your mother? Yes, Maya said quietly. Well, you're absolutely in the right seats. I apologize for the disturbance. Jessica shot Carol a look that could freeze fire. If you harass these passengers again, you will be removed from this aircraft. Carol's mouth fell open. You're taking their side. I'm taking the side of passengers who haven't assaulted anyone and have valid tickets. Please don't make this worse for yourself. As Jessica walked away, Carol muttered just loud enough for the twins to hear. probably affirmative action tickets. Or welfare. Madison's hand clenched into a fist. The man from 4C was suddenly standing in the aisle beside them. Are you girls all right? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm an attorney. If you want to press charges against that woman for assault, I'll represent you pro bono. We just want to get to our grandmother, Madison whispered. Marcus handed them each a business card. I understand, but I want you to know you have options. What she did wasn't okay. He glanced at Carol, who was aggressively texting on her phone. And something tells me this isn't over. He was right. What none of them knew was who was watching from the cockpit. The plane took off, but the tension in first class was suffocating. Carol kept shooting venomous looks at the twins. She made loud phone calls about the decline of standards on airlines these days. She complained to every flight attendant who passed about everything from the temperature to the ice in her drink. And she kept staring at Maya and Madison like they were criminals. The twins tried to ignore her. They put in earbuds, pulled out homework, did everything they could to make themselves invisible. But invisibility had never protected black girls, and it wouldn't start today. 30 minutes into the flight, Carol accidentally spilled her full glass of red wine directly onto Madison's lap. Oops, Carol said, her smile sharp as broken glass. How clumsy of me. Though I suppose you're used to wearing dirty clothes anyway. Madison jumped up, her jeans soaked through, her eyes wide with shock and humiliation. Maya was on her feet in seconds. You did that on purpose. Prove it. Carol's voice was sing-song. It was an accident. Accidents happen. Maybe if you weren't sitting where you don't belong. Stop. The shout came from an elderly white woman in seat 1A. She stood up, her whole body shaking with rage. I have watched you harass these children for the past hour, and I am done. You did that on purpose. You've been tormenting them on purpose, and I'm calling the flight attendant right now. Oh, please, Carol scoffed. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I'm a retired federal judge. The woman's voice was steel. I know assault when I see it. I know harassment when I see it. And I know a bigot when I see one. Flight attendant. Jessica appeared, took one look at Madison's wine-soaked clothes and Carol's smug expression, and her face hardened. Did you spill your drink on this passenger? It was an accident. I saw the whole thing, the retired judge said. She deliberately tilted her glass toward the girl. This wasn't an accident. It was assault. Be honest, what would you have done? Another voice joined in. A black woman in her 50s from seat 3B. I saw it too. She's been harassing these girls since before takeoff. I've been recording since the first incident. Then Marcus Webb. I've documented everything. Every comment. Every action. This is targeted harassment of minors. Carol looked around the cabin, finally realizing she'd lost the room. This is absurd. They're making something out of nothing because you're a racist. The retired judge's words cut through the air. I've been alive 73 years, and I've seen your kind my whole life. You think because you have money and status you can treat people like garbage. Well, not today. Not on my watch. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're making an emergency landing in Charlotte. We have a passenger disturbance that needs to be addressed by authorities. We'll be on the ground in 15 minutes. Carol's face went white. What? No, I didn't do anything wrong. You assaulted a minor, Marcus said calmly. Multiple witnesses. Video evidence. The captain is making the right call. I want to speak to the captain. You will, Jessica said, when we land and the police board this aircraft. For the first time, Carol looked genuinely scared. The 15 minutes to Charlotte felt like hours. Madison changed into Maya's spare hoodie from their carry-on, her wine-stained jeans still wet and uncomfortable. Maya held her sister's hand, both of them quiet, trying to process what was happening. The retired judge, who introduced herself as Judge Patricia Morrison, moved to sit next to them. Are you girls truly all right? We're okay, Maya said softly. Thank you for speaking up. I should have spoken up sooner. I'm ashamed I waited so long. Patricia's eyes were kind but fierce. What that woman did to you is unforgivable. I want you to know, you did nothing wrong. Nothing. You belong in first class. You belong anywhere you choose to be. Madison's voice cracked. It doesn't feel like it. I know, sweetheart. I know. Patricia squeezed her hand. But the world is changing. Slowly, too slowly, but it's changing. And it's changing because young women like you refuse to be silent. If only Carol knew who was about to step onto this plane. The plane touched down in Charlotte at 2:47 p.m. Before the seatbelt sign even turned off, the door opened. 4 people boarded. 2 airport police officers, a woman in a sharp business suit who carried herself like she owned the world. And Maya grabbed Madison's arm. Is that Mom? Madison's voice broke on the word. Dr. Angela Richardson strode down the aisle in full surgical scrubs under her coat, her locks pulled back in a professional bun, her face a mask of controlled fury. She was the head of pediatric surgery at Duke University Hospital. She'd been in the middle of a complex procedure when Marcus Webb's text had come through to her emergency line. Your daughter's being harassed on Flight 2847. Situation escalating. Need legal intervention. She'd had her resident close while she scrubbed out and chartered a plane to Charlotte. She'd been in the air before the twins' plane had even left Atlanta's airspace. And now she was here. Where are my daughters? Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. Maya and Madison stood up. Mom! Angela moved past everyone to reach them, her hands immediately checking them for injuries, her eyes taking in Madison's stained clothes and both girls' tear-streaked faces. Are you hurt? Did anyone put their hands on you? I'm okay, Mom, Madison said. She just spilled wine. She assaulted you. There's a difference. Angela's voice was ice. She turned to face Carol Hendricks, who had gone very, very pale. But here's the part that changed everything. Are you the woman who put her hands on my daughter? Carol lifted her chin, trying to regain some of her earlier bravado. Your daughters were sitting in first class with questionable tickets. I was simply... You were simply what? Assaulting children, assuming that black teenagers couldn't possibly afford first class, making yourself the ticket police when that's not your job. I have the right to feel safe on a plane. Safe? Angela's voice rose for the first time. You felt unsafe because of 2 17-year-old girls doing homework. You felt so unsafe that you grabbed my daughter's arm, tried to take her phone, called her a thief, and then deliberately poured wine on her. The woman in the business suit stepped forward. Mrs. Hendricks, I'm Sarah Chin, legal counsel for Delta Airlines. We need to have a serious conversation. Carol blinked. About what? About how your airline let those girls. About how you assaulted 2 minor passengers, created a disturbance that required an emergency landing, and exposed this airline to massive legal liability. Sarah's voice was professional but cold. We've reviewed the footage from the cabin cameras and from passenger phones. We've taken statements from witnesses. And Mrs. Hendricks, you're being permanently banned from Delta Airlines. What? You can't do that. We absolutely can. It's in the terms of service you agreed to when you purchased your ticket. Passengers who assault others, create disturbances, or engage in discriminatory harassment can be banned at the airline's discretion. This is discrimination against me. No, Marcus Webb stepped forward. This is consequences. I'm Marcus Webb, attorney for the Richardson family. My firm will be filing both criminal charges and a civil lawsuit against you for assault of minors, attempted theft, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Carol's face went from red to white to red again. You can't sue me. I have rights. So do my daughters, Angela said quietly. And you violated every single one of them. One of the police officers cleared his throat. Mrs. Hendricks, we need you to come with us. You're being detained for questioning regarding assault charges. This is insane. Over an accident. We have 8 witnesses saying it wasn't an accident. Please come with us voluntarily or we'll have to place you in handcuffs. Carol looked around the cabin desperately, searching for allies. She found none. Every passenger was either looking away or glaring at her with open disgust. This isn't fair, she whispered. Fair? Judge Morrison stood up. I'll tell you what's not fair. Those 2 young ladies were humiliated, terrorized, and assaulted for the crime of existing while black. They'll remember this trauma for the rest of their lives. You'll forget about it in a month. But yes, please tell me more about what's not fair. As the officers escorted Carol off the plane, she was crying, not from remorse, but from outrage that she was facing consequences. After she was gone, Angela pulled both twins into a fierce hug. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner." "You came, Mom," Maya said. "That's what matters." "How did you even get here so fast?" Madison asked. "Mr. Webb texted me the moment it started. I was airborne 20 minutes later." She pulled back and looked at Marcus. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you for protecting my girls. Seeing them safe is payment enough. But Dr. Richardson, I meant what I said about representation. I want to take this case, pro bono if necessary, but I think we can make an impact here. We're going to make Carol Hendricks regret every single choice she made today," Angela said quietly. "Not for revenge, but so the next black girls who fly first class don't have to go through this." Sarah Chen stepped forward. "Dr. Richardson, on behalf of Delta Airlines, I want to apologize. What your daughters experienced was unacceptable. We failed to protect them from the first moment of harassment." "Yes, you did. We'd like to make it right. Full refund of all tickets, compensation for the distress, and I'd like to invite your family to participate in our revised anti-discrimination training program. We need voices like yours to help us do better." "We'll consider it," Angela said, "after I consult with Mr. Webb and my daughters." The flight attendant Jessica approached, tears in her eyes. "Dr. Richardson, I'm so sorry. I should have removed that woman the first time she said something. I was scared of making a scene, of being wrong, of standing up for children being abused." Angela's voice was gentle but firm. "I understand fear, but when you're in a position of authority, you have a responsibility to protect the vulnerable. Remember this moment the next time you see someone being mistreated." Jessica nodded, wiping her eyes. "I will. I promise I will." What nobody expected was what Carol Hendricks' detention would reveal. The Richardson family, Angela, Maya, and Madison, was sitting in an airport conference room 2 hours later, giving statements to police and airport authorities. That's when Detective James Porter knocked on the door. "Dr. Richardson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development in the Carol Hendricks case." "What kind of development?" "When we ran her ID for the assault charges, something flagged in our system. We obtained a warrant to search her bags and—" He paused. "We found $47,000 in cash, jewelry that's been reported stolen from several hotels in the Atlanta area, and what appears to be identity theft materials, credit cards and other people's names, fake IDs, that sort of thing." The room went silent. "You're saying she's a criminal?" Marcus Webb leaned forward. "We're saying she's wanted in 3 states for theft, fraud, and identity theft. The cash in her bag includes money stolen from a charity fundraiser in Miami last month." Detective Porter shook his head. "She's been living a double life, wealthy socialite by day, sophisticated thief by night. The irony of her calling your daughters thieves when she's literally a career criminal." Maya and Madison looked at each other in shock. Angela's expression was unreadable. "So she's going to prison. For a very long time. The federal charges alone could get her 15 to 20 years. Add in the assault charges on your daughters, and—" Detective Porter shrugged. "She won't be harassing anyone for a long time." After he left, Madison said quietly, "She called us thieves. The whole time, she was the actual thief." "People who hate often project their own sins onto others," Angela said. "It's easier to accuse someone else than to look at your own darkness." "I almost feel bad for her," Maya said. "I don't." Angela's voice was firm. "She made her choices. She chose to assault you. She chose to steal. She chose hate. And now she'll face the consequences of all those choices." Marcus was on his phone, scrolling rapidly. "This is already news. Woman who harassed black teens on flight arrested for interstate theft ring." It's on every major outlet. Judge Morrison, who'd insisted on staying with the family until everything was resolved, smiled grimly. "Good. Let it be a lesson. Karma doesn't always come when you want it, but it comes." "Is it bad that I'm glad?" Madison asked quietly. that she's getting what she deserves. No, sweetheart, Patricia Morrison said. That's not vindictive. That's justice. There's a difference. 3 weeks later, the Richardson family sat in their living room in Durham, North Carolina, watching the evening news. The anchor's voice was professional but couldn't hide her satisfaction. Carol Hendricks, the woman who went viral 3 weeks ago for harassing 2 black teenagers on a Delta flight, has been sentenced to 18 years in federal prison for her role in a multi-state theft and fraud operation. Additionally, she received a 2-year sentence for assault of minors to run consecutively. The judge in the case said, and I quote, "Your actions revealed a pattern of entitlement, criminality, and hatred that has no place in civilized society." The screen showed footage of Carol being led into court in handcuffs, a far cry from the arrogant woman who'd grabbed Maya's arm. In related news, the anchor continued, Delta Airlines has announced sweeping changes to their passenger protection policies, including mandatory intervention training for all flight staff and a zero-tolerance policy for passenger-on-passenger harassment. The changes were developed in consultation with Dr. Angela Richardson and her daughters, Maya and Madison, the young women who were victimized in the initial incident. The screen switched to footage of Angela, Maya, and Madison at a press conference, standing beside Marcus Webb and representatives from Delta. Would you have forgiven the airline or walked away? Angela turned off the TV. How are you girls feeling about all of this? Maya and Madison exchanged looks. Honestly, Madison said, I still have nightmares about it sometimes. About her grabbing me. About everyone watching and not helping. But then I remember Judge Morrison standing up, Maya added. And Mr. Webb. And all the witnesses who came forward. And I remember that more people were good than bad. That's a mature way to look at it, Angela said. We learned from the best. Madison smiled at her mother. There was a knock at the door. Angela opened it to find a delivery person with a massive bouquet of flowers. The card read, To Maya and Madison, thank you for your courage. You changed our airline for the better. The Delta family. They sent something every week, Maya said, shaking her head. Flowers, gift baskets, handwritten letters from flight attendants. They are trying to make it right, Angela said. And I think they mean it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Webb. Judge approved the settlement. $500,000 to the girls. Policy changes implemented. And Carol's assets being liquidated to pay restitution to all her victims. Justice. Angela showed the girls the text. $500,000. Madison's eyes were huge. For your college funds, Angela said. And therapy, if you need it. And whatever else you want. You earned it, though I wish you'd never had to. Mom, Maya said quietly. Can we do something with part of it? Like what? Can we create a fund? For other kids who go through stuff like this but don't have a lawyer or a mom who can fly to them. So they can get help too. Angela pulled both girls into a hug, her eyes streaming. You two are going to change the world. 6 months later, Maya and Madison Richardson stood on a stage at the NAACP Image Awards. They were presenting the award for Outstanding Youth Advocacy, but first, they'd been asked to share their story. Madison stepped up to the microphone first. 6 months ago, my sister and I were assaulted on an airplane by a woman who decided we didn't belong in first class. She grabbed us, called us thieves, and poured wine on me, all because we're black. Maya took the MIC. We were scared. We were humiliated. We cried. But we also learned something important. We learned that silence enables abuse, Madison continued. When people see injustice and say nothing, they're choosing the side of the oppressor. But we also learned that there are people who will stand up, Maya said. Judge Morrison, Mr. Webb, the flight attendant who finally spoke up, the witnesses who came forward. They showed us that good people exist. And we learned that karma is real, Madison said with a slight smile. The woman who called us thieves was arrested as a thief herself. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. The audience laughed and applauded. But most importantly, Maya said, her voice growing serious, we learned that our voices matter. That speaking up, even when it's scary, can change things. Because of what happened to us, Delta Airlines changed their entire harassment policy. Flight attendants are now trained to intervene immediately. There's a hotline for passengers facing discrimination, and there are real consequences for people who attack others. That wouldn't have happened if we'd stayed silent, Madison said. If we'd just accepted it and moved on. So to any young person watching this, Maya said, looking directly into the camera, if someone treats you like you don't belong, speak up. Document it. Tell someone. Because you do belong. Everywhere. In first class, in boardrooms, in places people say weren't meant for you. Your dignity is non-negotiable, Madison said firmly. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise. The applause was thunderous. Backstage after the ceremony, Angela found them surrounded by well-wishers and press. A young black girl, maybe 13, approached shyly. Maya, Madison, I just wanted to say thank you. Last month, I was in a store and a security guard followed me around like I was going to steal something. I remembered your story, and I asked to speak to the manager. I told them what was happening, and the manager apologized and talked to the security guard right there. She smiled, her eyes bright. I used to think I just had to accept being treated like that, but you showed me I don't. So thank you. After she walked away, Madison turned to Maya with tears in her eyes. We're making a difference. We're making difference, Maya corrected. One person at a time. 1 year later, the Richardson Foundation for Youth Justice had officially launched. In its first year, it had helped 73 young people who'd experienced discrimination, harassment, or assault. It provided legal representation, therapy, advocacy, and financial support. Maya and Madison, now 18 and freshmen at Howard University, ran the foundation's social media and youth outreach programs while Angela handled the business side with help from Marcus Webb, who'd become the foundation's legal director. They were hosting their first annual gala, and the ballroom was packed with donors, supporters, and families they'd helped. Judge Patricia Morrison gave the keynote speech. A year ago, I was on a plane, watching 2 young women get abused, and I stayed silent for far too long. I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere, that someone else would handle it. But silence is complicity, and I almost let my silence make me complicit in hate. She looked at Maya and Madison, sitting at the head table. But those young women's courage shamed me into action. And in the years since, I've seen them transform their trauma into triumph. They didn't just survive what happened to them. They used it to protect others. The Richardson Foundation has helped dozens of young people stand up for themselves. It's changed policies at airlines, schools, businesses. It's given voice to those who thought they had to stay silent. And it all started because 2 17-year-old girls refused to accept that hate and harassment were just part of being black in America. She raised her glass to Maya and Madison Richardson, and to every young person who refuses to be diminished. Your courage is changing the world. The room erupted in applause. Later that night, as the event wound down, Angela found her daughters on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Tired. Exhausted, Maya admitted. But good exhausted. I'm proud of you both. You know that, right? We know, Mom, Madison said. But we couldn't have done any of this without you. Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you know. Angela put an arm around each of them. But I'm glad you didn't have to. Mom, Maya said quietly. Do you think Carol Hendricks ever thinks about us? Probably. I imagine she has a lot of time to think where she is. Do you think she's sorry? Angela considered this. I think she's sorry she got caught. I think she's sorry she's in prison. I'm not sure she's sorry for what she did to you. People like that rarely are. That's sad, Madison said. It is. But it's not your burden to carry. You didn't create her hatred. You didn't make her choices. All you did was exist while black. And that's not a crime, no matter how much people like her wish it was. We're going to keep fighting, Maya said firmly. For every kid who gets followed in stores, questioned in spaces they have every right to be, made to feel like they don't belong. I know you will, Angela said, and I'll be right there with you. They stood together in comfortable silence, looking at the city that sprawled before them. Somewhere in a federal prison, Carol Hendricks was serving year 2 of an 18-year sentence. Her wealth gone, her reputation destroyed, her freedom taken. But here, on this balcony, 3 black women stood free and powerful and unbroken. Karma had hit, swift and devastating. But more importantly, justice had prevailed. And the world was a little bit better because 2 teenage girls had refused to stay silent. Epilogue. 5 years later, Maya Richardson, now a law student, stood before a congressional committee. She was testifying in support of the Passenger Protection and Anti-Discrimination Act, a bill that would create federal standards for how airlines handle harassment and discrimination. 5 years ago, I was assaulted on an airplane. I was 17 years old, sitting in a seat my mother purchased, doing my homework, bothering no one. And a woman decided that I didn't belong there, that my sister and I, by virtue of our skin color, must be criminals. What happened next changed my life, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. She looked at the senators before her. Since that day, my sister and I have worked with over 400 families who experienced similar incidents. Children questioned, adults harassed, elderly people humiliated. All because airlines don't have consistent standards for protecting passengers from other passengers. This bill would change that. It would require intervention training. It would create reporting standards. It would ensure that what happened to me happens to fewer and fewer people until, hopefully, it doesn't happen at all. Some people will say this is an overreaction, that discrimination is rare, that we're being too sensitive. She smiled sadly. To those people, I say, spend one day being black in America. Spend one day being followed in stores, questioned in spaces you belong, told you must have stolen or scammed your way into success. Spend one day being presumed guilty until proven innocent. And then tell me we're overreacting. The committee passed the bill unanimously. 6 months later, President signed it into law. And when he handed Maya the pen he used to sign it, he said something she'd never forget. Thank you for turning your pain into progress. That's the highest form of courage. Final scene. 10 years after the incident, Maya and Madison Richardson, now both attorneys specializing in civil rights law, returned to Charlotte Douglas International Airport. They were meeting their mother for a flight to Atlanta. First class, of course. As they settled into their seats, a young flight attendant approached. Ms. Richardson and Ms. Richardson, I'm so honored to have you on our flight today. I just wanted you to know, I became a flight attendant because of you. I read about what happened to you, and I wanted to be part of the solution. She showed them her training manual. An entire chapter was dedicated to passenger protection and intervention. It was called the Richardson Protocol. Every flight attendant in America learns your story in training, she said. We learn what went wrong and how to do better. You changed our entire industry. After she walked away, Madison turned to Maya. Was it worth it? Maya thought about the nightmares she'd had for months after the incident, about the therapy sessions, about the fear that had crept in every time she traveled. But she also thought about the 400 families they'd helped, about the laws that had changed, about the young girl in the store who'd found her voice, about the flight attendant who'd been inspired to join the industry. Yeah, she said softly, it was worth it. Their mother joined them, sliding into the seat beside them. Ready for takeoff? Always, they said in unison. And as the plane lifted into the sky, 3 black women sat in first class, comfortable, confident, and completely, utterly belonging. The way it always should have been. Emotional moral ending. What happened to Maya and Madison Richardson wasn't fair. 2 17-year-old girls should have been able to fly home to their grandmother without being assaulted, harassed, and humiliated. But they took their trauma and transformed it. They didn't let it break them. They let it build them. And in doing so, they reminded every black mother watching that our children's dignity is non-negotiable. That when someone puts their hands on our babies, physically or metaphorically, there will be consequences. That speaking up, even when it's terrifying, can change the world. Carol Hendricks thought she could terrorize 2 black girls and face no repercussions. She was wrong. Karma hit hard and fast. But more importantly, justice prevailed. And it prevailed because those girls refused to stay silent. Because witnesses like Judge Morrison found their courage. Because allies like Marcus Webb stepped up. Because a mother like Dr. Angela Richardson moved heaven and earth to protect her children. The next time you see injustice, on a plane, in a store, in any space, remember Maya and Madison. Remember that your voice matters, that your intervention could save someone, that silence enables oppression. And remember that our black children deserve to move through this world without proving they belong. They belong because they exist. They belong because they are human. They belong because their dignity is their birthright, not something they need to earn. And anyone who tries to take that away, well, karma's waiting. And she's got receipts.